Going live.
Going live.
Yeah, I'm live too.
All right. Do you want to say something while I make sure this is actually working?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of TapCaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast with two handsome Canadian men wearing greenish shirts.
Mine's just gray, so something's off with my light.
Is
Oh,
it?
well.
Is it my monitor? Maybe. Either way,
it's probably my fault.
Either way, as interesting as that conversation is, welcome to TapCaf Transmissions. Today we've got a very special episode. I decided I don't want to read.
Don't want to? Is that what we're saying?
Don't have time to. Can't. Okay.
It can't. That's what I was.
You really got to drill down to it.
Yeah.
So today we're going to do a question and answer video, or a question and answer stream rather. So we're streaming this live on my channel and on Corey's channel. If you guys want to ask questions, feel free. Do we have email questions to go through as well?
Technically we don't. We had a few. Well, we have like one or two from earlier in the month. There aren't any super fresh ones. We did have a scam email that I can read if people like.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, our first question comes out from Mrs. Doris Cedric from Switzerland. She says she's a widow to the late Philip Cedric, and she's now a new Christian convert suffering from long-time cancer of the breast and heart diseases. From all indications, according to my doctor, I will not last more than 6 months, and I'm willing to donate the sum of $1 million USD to the less privileged. My private email address, I'm not going to give that away on stream, but thank you, Doris, for reaching out. Sorry to hear that.
I truly do consider myself one of the less privileged. But yeah, so the way this is going to work, now that we've gotten the email questions out of the way, we will take chat questions. Obviously, priority goes to super chat questions on Corey or myself stream. We'll go through for, I don't know, an hour and a bit. We are kind of up against it, but if you enjoy this, make sure you do follow our podcast, TapCaf Transmissions. Links are down in the description. I'm sure that we will be doing questions at the end of next video because it's a book episode. And next video is The Living Force, right? Or next
that is going to be The Living Force by John Jackson Miller, another of the authors who is both contributed to Legends and Canon. So those are
I'm trying to think. What are the really famous Legends authors that haven't done Canon work? Obviously, Kevin Anderson and Michael Stackpole. Like a lot of the one-off bands.
Troy Denning, I guess.
Wow, Troy Denning's not done anything for Canon yet. Is that true?
I don't think so.
Wow.
Because, I mean, he's been more busy with, like, Halo and stuff. I don't know that he had... You're making me question myself here. I don't think... Yeah, his last thing was Crucible in 2013. So...
That's my Star Wars canon. Crucible and Crucible only. We do have our first donation from Theo Noble, who says, have y'all played Star Wars 5e, and how much more do I need to pay y'all to do it? Do you want to address this, Corey? Because you're...
So, like, Star Wars 5th edition D&D stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, I've played, like, the D6 system, which I thought that was fine. I have played D&D, but my favorite Star Wars role-playing game system is the Fantasy Flight Games one. Like, the narrative dice in that, I think, are just really good. So, I don't know that I really want to try the D20 system more than I want to go back and just play more of the FFG system. But
yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe they're asking about both. I've only done one game, and it was the FFG system. I really enjoyed it. You can actually find... We almost finished the campaign. Something came up. Very complicated. A bunch of things came up and had to come down. But you can find that on... I think we did that on X2, right? In your channel.
That on X2, my channel, and on Shaq's channel, and Wasted.
I
don't know if... Twin Suns. It was basically a tie-in to our Twin Suns Squadrons performance.
Yeah, if you look up Twin Suns Star Wars Tabletop, you're not going to find it.
Like, I do want to get back to doing... Like, I've never GM'd before, and I want to do a bunch of different campaigns if I can. So I'm kind of thinking about getting back into that. But
if you look up Star Wars Tabletop X2, you can find it there. Someone made a whole playlist of it, which is nice, and it was great. I had an amazing time. Like I said, I'm really eager to do it again. And yeah, maybe I was thinking I also kind of want to try just like a regular D&D campaign, maybe
like fantasy style, no Star Wars involved.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to answer this one, but
Next question.
okay. Next question. Sorry, Marmar. Also, this one from Thomas. No, not yet. Someday. It'll happen. All right. Any
And
other
bro,
questions
still
from your
working on
chat we
that.
want to jump into first?
No, go ahead. Choose one of yours. Maybe
I don't
we'll
have.
alternate.
All of my questions are about gooning, so maybe pick one of yours.
Okay. This is a good one. Thundercube says, "What do you think Canon does better than Legends, and what does Legends do better than Canon?" That's a good question.
Does that mean you're going to answer first?
No, you answer first.
All right. So I think it's hard to say like stories are better or worse in Legends or Canon on an individual basis, because that's always like which author's doing what. There's some of the best authors are in both. So I don't really think it's worth talking about like are stories better in Legends or Canon individually. But I think what Legends did better was within the context of the books, be able to do kind of whatever the series wanted there, because there wasn't this concern of like, oh, we need to worry about what's going to happen with Luke in other movies or in other shows or something. So they could have Han and Leia have kids. They could kill off Chewbacca, and they weren't going to get told like, no, you're just a book. You don't get to do that.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is that Canon does have more different types of media in it. And even if that does lead to a bit of a hierarchy in what's allowed to do certain things, it does mean there's more connections now than there used to be between different types of media. That's, I think, the biggest thing that's different.
Yeah. That was pretty much exactly what I was going to say. Like, Canon or Legends had fewer of the what was that book that came out? Rise of the Resistance, or Resistance Reborn, rather, books where like you could tell it was kind of just.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's not true, because there were a lot of Clone Wars books which were like whatever, kind of just filled in. But there had a lot more liberty with what they could do, obviously, like storytelling wise. Canon, I think, has what has Canon done better? Yeah, I guess the tie-in thing. Like it is pretty cool that like aspects of Canon are appearing in TV shows. Although I guess
Well,
that's a bit of a cop out in a way.
but like if you look at I think just generally how much stuff connects to each other, like the connections that existed between Bad Batch, Kenobi, Jedi Fallen Order, and Survivor, and then some of those getting like more direct tie-in books.
Mhm.
There were like you'd be lucky in the 90s to get, and early 2000s, to get characters from games just into books.
Yep.
And like Kyle Katarn is like one of the most important characters within Legends, but him showing up in books to actually be part of those stories doesn't happen until the post NJO period.
Mhm.
So that's what, like 2005 or 6 was when he actually shows up in books that aren't just the Jedi Knight books
Yeah.
or the Dark Forces book.
Yeah, and that was kind of like an unforced error too, because they definitely could have done that. Like I'm thinking of, I can't even remember her name, the random Imperial that shows up in Rogue Squadron and for the N64,
Mhm.
the defector. Like
Yeah.
she could have been. I will say that it actually, that's kind of ironic that I say that, because books and comics actually were pretty good crossover wise. Like, and I say it's
Mhm.
ironic because like the Rogue Squadron comics obviously tied into the books.
In some
Um,
cases, that's true, but it usually is when it's the same authors, right? Where like the John
yeah,
Jackson Miller stuff and like Kevin J. Anderson, I think, was involved in some of the comics as well. But like the biggest examples in the Star Wars, like the kind of like tentpole legend series of like on the comic side, it's Dark Empire. On the book side, it's the Thrawn trilogy, and
mhm.
like that was pretty contentious on whether they want like Zan didn't want to acknowledge that he was in the same universe as some of that stuff.
It is kind of weird that like as a kid in the 90s and 2000s, you could play through most of the Star Wars video games and not ever hear about Thrawn, and like be
Yeah,
a pretty big. You could be a pretty big Star Wars fan and not hear about Thrawn.
yeah,
If you didn't read the books. And nowadays, if you're a pretty big Star Wars fan, you've heard of him from at least Ahsoka.
yeah. But we have a kind of related question from Clamburglar here. I unfortunately I can only do the questions on my end, so sorry to ex viewers, but for showing up on screen. But Clam is asking, what's the least amount of NJO content you would need to consume before reading Trader to understand the story?
Trader. I'd read like. Oh, that's a good question. I see. I'm really bad with the individual NJO books that kind of lead together to me. So
Yeah.
obviously, you want to read Vector Prime. Obviously, you want to read Star by Star. I would just more aim to, like, you can skip. Like, there are a ton of stories you can skip, but I'm trying to think what the big Jason and the
Trader
kids
is so
stories are.
Jason, yeah, like Trader is so Jason focused that you can probably just do Vector Prime, Edge of Victory, I think it is,
It's just the
whichever
one where
one
they're
has
all
Duro in it.
bald.
Yeah, the one on
Yeah,
Duro. I
yeah.
think
I think that's Edge of
that's
Victory 1
Edge
and
of
2.
Victory
Yeah,
because that kind of just sets up Jason's storyline in it,
yeah.
and then you can just jump into Star by Star and Trader. Because when I first started reading Star Wars books, I'm pretty sure I read Star by Star first. Like it
Mm.
might have been the first Star Wars book I read, at least where I was aware that I was a Star Wars fan. And I like you don't know a lot of the specific context of what's going on, but it's like 7,000 pages of sibling angst. So like
Yeah.
even if you just did Star by Star and Trader, it's not like you're going to be completely lost.
Yeah, I just read Lando Calrissian in the Star Cave of Thunbaka 10 times and you'll get it.
Yeah, that's
The rest of the knowledge will just present
the
in
other
your
necessary
brain.
reading.
Yeah.
You got one you want to pull up?
Y
As well.
yeah, let's see. I wasn't preparing myself. I
Oh,
should have.
okay. Well, I'll just pull up another one. You
Yeah.
can queue some up.
Yeah.
Next, we have Fulcrum, who's asking, how was Qui-Gon able to manifest as a Force ghost, but his physical body didn't disappear when he died? The Simpsons actually covered this. A wizard did it.
He's simply built different.
Yeah. he was still in the process of learning it for everyone else to be able to do it. So he didn't quite stick the landing.
Yeah.
But it's
he just through pure force of will. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like the Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina story with two of the people, the Lamproid and Wolfman, where they end up as Force ghosts on Endor as well.
Yeah, I remember that one. I forgot about that story completely.
That's
aren't they also romantic with each other too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't they romantic with each other?
Yeah.
Do they bang?
Pay to see that. Yeah, so here's kind of a good one.
The real answer to Fulcrum is we don't.
Yeah, so this is just a very short one. Following the Bad Batch finale, do you still think the Victory class is possible in canon? Well, for one, I think the Victory is in canon.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. I was reading, my son has like a Lego Star Wars book, where it's like it's actually by I think Jason Fry is one of the named authors. And it's just like it's kind of weird because it's a mix of like Lego history, but then it's also like a ship lore book, but with like Lego. So it's pretty cool. And on the page for the Imperial Star Destroyer, it mentions that victories were introduced at the end of the Clone Wars, which I just thought was like a very strange little bit of lore to throw in, like in a kid's. What's a victory Star Destroyer? That sounds sick.
I think it's so like omnipresent in Legends that like it's such an easy asset to make if you just have an ISD model. It'll probably end up in there somewhere.
Well, they didn't include a picture of it. Just the word.
But I think it's been included in text in enough places.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it's been pictured in. I remember it was mentioned really early on in the Tarkin book because I'm pretty sure that was initially a Legends one, right? So, yeah. Okay, there's a picture of Victory fighting an MC-75. That's cool. But yeah, it's actually not been in much. So it'd be nice. I'd like to see it in something.
Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time with that one. But
yeah,
they can use the Rogue One ISD for literally everything. They can also use it to make a VSD.
Well, you see, they made that new ISD. Oh wait, no, I was gonna say they made an ISD. Didn't they make an ISD 2 for something recently? Or am I? No, I don't think
for Ahsoka. where
Oh
like
yeah,
everyone thought it was an ISD2, but it's just like an
yeah. No,
ISD1
I
where they
was
just
thinking of no, I was thinking of the ISD1 model that they used in Bad Batch looked a little different to me, but I'm not sure.
I think it is the Rogue one
Okay,
still,
yeah,
just with different shaders slopped on it. But Marmar does want to know what's the horniest Star Wars book I could grab to read.
probably Lost Stars is really horny. I don't know. Do you have any thought? Like, there's
Dark
none.
Nest.
Dark Nest, yeah. Marmar
It's
probably, yeah,
like if we're going for like what's the horniest by like pure volume of beings getting inside each other, Dark
yeah,
Nest.
yeah. I suppose that's true. There's not, there's not that many horny Star Wars books that I can think of anyway.
Yeah, like it wasn't until Andor that they canonized sex, anyways. So,
Yeah, let's
well,
say
any
watch
fucking scene in
Andor.
NJO with Mara, and it's like, you know what my character is now? I'm
It
just gonna
it
be,
basically just be like Luke blew Mara's back out. That's like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It was a lot.
It was written at times like the guy who's like got a girlfriend for the first time and is like telling all his buddies about like how many times they're kissing.
Except he doesn't
I
actually have the
texted her
girlfriend.
until 11 o'clock last night.
She lives in the States. You wouldn't know
Yeah,
her.
no, not a dude.
You want to pull one up from your side now? Anything that's caught your eye?
Yeah, favorite non-Death Star super weapon.
Non-Death Star super weapon.
I call World Devastators.
What's the bounds on a super weapon here? It's like, is
You go pretty
the
broad.
is the Dark Reaper something we can say?
Yeah,
Like that's kind of neat. It's at least different. Like Mass Shadow Generator, I think is kind of neat too, where it's just at least it's not just here's something that's slightly better at blowing up planets than the Death Star. Like the Sun Crusher is easily the worst. That's like the, oh yeah, well my fictional super weapon can beat up your fictional super weapon,
yeah,
in kind of the same way that like the Star Killer base explanation in episode 7 was like, it's not the Death Star, it's bigger.
yeah. It's much larger.
Zoom out more.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of bad ones. And Star Wars definitely does have a bit of a villain of the week thing in
So
Legends.
your dad can blow up a planet, but my dad can blow up the whole solar system, and he has super armor. So like your
And also,
dad
he
couldn't
blew
even
up the whole
punch it.
fleet too. Never see the Death Star do that.
But also, it's not the guy who was flying my dad's fault, because there was a Sith ghost inside him. He had the dog in him.
Yeah, that dog in him. That Sith dog.
Sith
Yeah.
Wookiee hasn't been explored yet, and I hope that happens someday.
Is that true? There's never been a Sith Wookiee?
There's Hanhar technically, I guess, but he's not really a
Yeah.
Sith. It's more like you can train him as a Dark Jedi, but that's not
Yeah.
like the canon ending anyways. And he's just the
Damn.
angstiest one.
That'd be pretty cool. Sith Wookiee.
It's just they're always supposed to be so cuddly. So
I think like part of that is because, well, George Lucas like didn't like, if I remember correctly, he didn't like Wookiee Force users.
he did not want. That's part of why Lobaka was like sent off to pasture for a little while before
Yeah.
he. But that ultimately changed with like Gungi or Gungi. Gungi. I just listened to how
Well,
Ahsoka pronounced it the
he
first time
didn't want
recently.
it because he wanted to do it himself.
Yeah, well,
He wanted to
he
make it weird.
he just changes his mind all the time.
He's got to be cute.
I want to pet him. I have to want to pet him, or he's not on the show.
I feel like George Lucas probably saw Wookiees as like almost Lord of the Rings style, like a noble race,
Yeah,
almost like the elves. So I don't think
yeah.
he would have been cool with that.
The kind of sci-fi race essentialism is a lot more prominent earlier on than at least now. But
Yeah, that's like when I'm rereading Lord of the Rings and like some of the men are better because they've got the blood of the Numenor.
mhm.
No one talks about that.
I mean, they do a lot in the books, though.
Strider, you can't say the N word.
Jesus Christ. All right.
Okay, let's move on.
Next question. What historical figure would have the best chance for making themselves emperor, but without having them be Sith / Force powers? Who would be best able to exploit galactic politics? Probably Mr. Rogers, right?
Well, the Sith kind of talked about doing it with like a supercomputer in Plagueis. They talk about how like that was one of the ways they were considering taking over the galaxy was
But I
like,
think he means like real history,
oh, a
like real
real,
world figures. Look, I don't subscribe to the great man theory of history, so it's
yeah, hmm. Probably just the tallest man.
then he could just eat the other ones.
Yeah, the tallest man. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't.
And the equivalent question of this is which Sith or Jedi would make the best hockey player, which I think is a lot easier to answer because it's Darth Bane.
Chewbacca. Oh, Sith or Jedi.
Yeah.
Again, probably the largest one. Like
Darth
like
Bane.
Beldorion in nets. Good luck.
True.
Yeah.
True. It's just we're going pure mass. Yeah, they're a goalie. That's
I'm
kind
not
of cheating,
convinced.
but
I'm not convinced you couldn't find a man fat enough to be an unstoppable hockey goalie. Like I'm not.
is that just like there's got to be some kind of regulations about like positioning or coverage on the
I'm
net there.
guessing it has to do with like pad size because like
Hmm.
pad size is like regulated. But so
Is pad coverage regulated?
I think like they probably have a rule where like your chest protector can only be like so many inches wide.
Okay.
Um,
But like
and
do they enforce that has to actually cover your chest, or is this just a
what are you getting at? I mean, I think so.
like is there a legal limit to how big their goalie can actually end up being?
Well, no, but my argument is the chest protector is only so big, so you're just gonna be peppering their fat with like pucks. So like you got to sedate them before the game at least.
I don't know if a hut would care.
Oh,
We'll have
for a
to put some
hot no,
people on.
yeah, no, for a hot no. I'm talking about a real life fat dude,
Okay.
like like the 1 ton man.
Hmm. I mean, who's struggling the most with their goalie right now? Because we could put this to the GM.
In the playoffs, probably the Oilers.
Oof, gross. That's
Yeah,
Dana's dad's team. I
yeah.
guess technically Dana's team as well, if she watched, but
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. It's not passed on by blood. Like,
no, I mean, in the periods where she watches hockey, that was
okay,
her rooting interest. I didn't think there was again
she
race
was like,
essentialism
she
to
was
hockey fandom.
christened by like when she's like a baby, they take her and put her under like a gas pump and just
Some people have the blood of Numenor, others have the blood of the
the blood of Supreme
fucking
Plus. Your
the
father
leaded.
only washed you in unleaded Supreme. We are
You
Supreme
got to stick with
Plus
the
here.
unleaded. Lead poisoning, that fucks you up. But
Yeah,
we are
for
no
sure.
longer talking about Star Wars.
No, not even
Any other
close.
questions from yours you want to get to next?
Sure. Um, are you excited for the Acolyte?
Yes. I am very excited for the Acolyte. The Acolyte was second to Andor in the list of shows that I was excited for
It
when we
was,
started
yeah.
getting the blurbs for it. It looks like it's good. It looks like there's going to be enough action and intrigue that it'll be what I was thinking it would be and hoping it would be, and that's fine with me. So,
Yeah, I watched so I saw the Phantom Menace in theaters, and I saw the Acolyte thing after. It looks pretty good. It's for me, it's like below Ahsoka season 2 or Andor season 2. But yeah, I think it's going to be good. I hope it's good because like right now I've got like I don't think I've uploaded on this channel in like 6 days or a week, which for me
mm,
is crazy. Part of it's because it's the playoffs and I've been focusing on that. But but yeah, it's I hope that Star Wars gets going again because I probably should get going.
gets going. We literally just had the end of the Bad Batch and Tales of the Empire like a week ago.
Yeah, I got one video of Tales of the Empire. That's it.
Oh, that's too bad. Like, what else is coming out after that? There's Outlaws. Oh, there's also, of course, there's going to be Hunters on the same day. So,
Do I look like I care?
no, you already told us on this very podcast that you did not, in fact, give a fuck. So, I don't know what to tell you. Okay.
No, definitely not. I remember we got the Ahsoka screeners on a Thursday night because I was like pretty drunk watching it.
Yeah, I was gonna say something that we shouldn't say, but yeah.
I was like, try not to break the NDA.
Press start streaming.
Someday.
I got a question here from Urius, who's asking, why isn't there more dual-bladed lightsaber wielders in Disney productions? Why not more love for Darth Maul's calling card?
I guess that's a pretty good question. Do you have any thoughts, Corey?
I think part of it is like there weren't as many different lightsaber users in the sequel trilogy as in the prequels. Like you're dealing with 2 or 3 people, and Rey did end the trilogy with a double-bladed lightsaber. So I think we are about to get more of that out of Rey's movie, because she's probably going to be using a lightsaber, and we know she has that one. So there should at least be something there. But like we've had some Darth Maul, we've had even though he gets reverted back to a single blade in a lot of situations with the dark saber, but like I think part of it is just amount of media there and trying to evoke more of the feeling of like like the OT is what JJ was trying to do, where like A New Hope was such a big reference for him that he was the one who set up what Kylo
Rey's
and Rey
lightsaber
would
is
be
not
using
double
in
bladed,
that.
by the way. Her new
Isn't
one.
it?
No.
Isn't it double bladed? Yeah, I guess it's the dark Rey that has it.
Yeah.
Is it not double bladed yellow?
No,
Like the
it's
double
only
bladed
one.
red?
It's only
Damn,
one.
that
Because
sucks.
her red one it's weird. It like flips out.
Yeah, because that is double bladed.
Yeah, that's like double bladed even in like single bladed mode. Because well, not in single, but because it like remember it
I don't
flips
think
up
is
like
the
this
second
and
one
then
on when it's. I haven't watched Rise of Skywalker in
I don't know.
5
Yeah.
6 years.
At that point I'm already seething about the Star Destroyer, so I don't know.
Yeah. Man, I would like that movie honestly so much more if it simply were not for the fucking Zeiston.
Oh yeah. My idea was like I would have loved if the fleet was like decrepit and old like him, like just like shards of rock, basically. Seriously, like if it looked like it was just like pulled out of the ground, like
A bunch of Sith interdictors and supremacies get floated up. And
just
Petroglyph's
like
dream is back.
yeah, exactly. Looking like the what is it? The Nagai or the Faroon from the Star Wars Marvel comics, that fleet. You ever see that one? Just like the weird shapes.
No, the Nagai, the
Yeah.
ones that are just like
Yeah.
weird lines. I've had to have that image saved for a while because, like, is this a thing we're actually making for Dawn's Revenge or not?
Oh, are you gonna have a invasion event for them?
Yeah, like the Toph, one of the
Oh, the top,
modelers
yeah.
made a kind of joke interpretation of the Merryweather,
Okay.
and like the Nagai and Toph as kind of invasion factions or just like independent groups around the map that we can, because like
Wait,
it's a
they're
thing where
not
we
in
know
now
this
though, are
stuff.
they?
No,
Okay.
because that'd be a video you can just put out in on X2.
Well,
Like 10
no,
views.
I had a series going on X2 for Empire War, and
Yeah.
then Charlie just lost the video file. So
Did you delete the files after you sent them to him?
well, I don't think I deleted them. I think my computer crashed or something.
Okay.
I lost
Fair.
them basically.
Fair.
Because no, I would never purposefully delete something that I hadn't seen Charlie work on yet. Because obviously,
Yeah, I was about to say like this seems like it might be on you, but
yeah,
I would never say that on a call with Charlie in it. But
I would. I mean,
no,
obviously.
to say that it was on you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
No.
But you want to pull a question from yours now? While I look for
Yeah,
another from
I
mine?
lost the exact question. Oh yeah, here we go. In your opinion, which battle in Star Wars history had the most unjustified outcome, i.e., which win or loss was most clearly a result of plot armor and logically should not have occurred?
The It's not necessarily the outcome that I think sticks out as being weird, but like when they take Coruscant in the X-Wing books, it's just there's so few people
Yeah,
involved in the space battle where it's like, oh, the VSD came in and took out the goal and we're done.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we talked about the scale there so many times.
Yeah.
Endor, I mean, it's an obvious answer, but it's pretty clearly
Yeah.
like a bit of nonsense. And like Endor doesn't happen if Palpatine's not like being a camp bitch the whole time, where he like
Yeah.
wants to be dramatic for Luke. Yeah, that would probably. probably be my
Sir,
chance.
should we engage the fleet? No, he's not here yet. Wait.
Yeah, that's basically it. I gotta spin my chair around.
Okay, we practiced this for days, guys. Why did I hire that choreographer?
Jakku is pretty bad in a way where like it's the like Jakku is like it. So Jakku takes place a year after Endor, and it's like supposed to be the last remnants of the Empire, basically, which like doesn't really make sense. Even with like Aftermath, where Aftermath is weird because like book 1 or 2, I think it's the end of book 2, they talk about like these massive fleets that have been hiding out in like nebula around the galaxy. And you're like, oh, okay, those are going to be the First Order fleets. Then it's like, nope, we're bringing these to Jakku. It's like, oh, well,
Yeah, I think I don't know. I can't really. Nothing else is coming to mind where like the scale of it is so raw. There's definitely stuff that I've thought that while reading. It's just it's all left my brain right now. So
which is the one where the CR90 like destroys the Executor?
oh,
So, is it the
there's
Iron Fist that gets destroyed?
that
Or
kind of thing
no?
happens with Second Death, Iron Fist, and Nighthammer,
Yeah.
where there's so many places in most battles in Legends that have an SSD in them, and with the SSD being exploded because of a hidden bomber on them, a single hidden bomber.
Oh
So
yeah,
like
the one over Yavin's particularly bad, in my
yeah,
opinion.
and the battle between Mon Ramonda, Razor's Kiss, and Second Death is just real dumb.
Oh yeah, where like Mon Ramonda is just like tanking shots and then the fleet
Yeah.
comes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the even with the size differential between like at that point everyone thought the executor class was like the 8 kilometer version.
Mhm.
So it's not quite the same
It's like
size differences.
several Star Destroyers worth of firepower instead of like
Yeah, like and
literally
it
10.
doesn't scratch Mon Ramonda.
Yeah.
Because there is some like fun maneuvering that Mon Ramonda does, but it's still it's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that does kind of tie in what you were saying with Jakku to Thomas's question from a while back uh, about do you guys like the way that Canon did the collapse of the Empire after Palpatine's death? Personally, I preferred Legends with all the warlords and Imperial remnants still surviving after the dust settled. And I think we're kind of getting more towards that than what was kind of pointed to in Aftermath, anyways. But it's definitely weaker
Mm.
than it was. And as much as I prefer some of the warlordism in Legends, I don't know that I need those stories again. Is the thing.
Yeah.
So we'll
Yeah,
see
like
what like Thrawn ends up doing.
Ahsoka or Mando season 3 really took us kind of in that direction where
Yeah.
yeah.
And the scaling with that ends up being very small too, where like, oh, look at how powerful the Architens is going to be. That's going to be a problem. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, like in what's it called? Alphabet Squadron where they're chasing around like one fighter group and it's like the New Republic's biggest issue. Well,
yeah.
not really, but yeah.
Like I'm okay with it being a smaller scale for some of those battles where like the Empire collapsing makes sense. Like with a lot of states collapsing like that, it's not like it's this long drawn out thing, especially if
Mhm.
someone's there to fill the power vacuum.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
prefer the EU version, but
Okay, let me see if I've got any questions now. So rear, you can take this one, Corey. Says, what exactly makes a frigate a frigate? I'm asking because Nebula and Bees are frigates, but Victories are also called frigates. I'm honestly really confused about the frigate classification.
it's kind of like the that XKCD comic where like there's so many competing standards, someone should do one that like covers all of these use cases, and then it's just you've made one more competing standard.
Yeah.
Where like people like it's mostly just authors make a ship, and then because frigate or corvette or whatever sounds military they'll throw that on there. And then
Mhm.
you'll have like some source books that try to explain, oh, this is a capital ship, this is a frigate, this is a battle cruiser, these are like the subclasses of capital ship. And nothing, it's the same as like the general rank within the New Republic, where there's not a way to make it make sense.
Mhm.
And you can like if you want to just try to find something that works ish for headcanon purposes, go for it. But like don't worry too much about it because it's there was no standard when they put it together, and anything else is just a post hoc rationalization for it that's going to have holes.
Yeah. Like with the Alliance, or with like the New Republic or the Rebel Alliance, or even like the Confederacy, you can say, oh, well, also not only what you said is true, but also all of these different sub factions have their own naming system. Like, oh, the Mon Calamari call everything a frigate that's this size, or the Trade Federation call everything a frigate this size. But also keep in mind with the Victory, the Victory Star Destroyer, I don't think is ever called a frigate, but there is a Victory class frigate, which is something different. And also Home 1 used to be called the Headquarters frigate. So
yeah, so it exists.
Yeah.
We have a question here about Darth Talon's backstory and how would it be different between the comics and the movies. It would have not, like, there would have been no similarities other than here's a Twi'lek that George thought was hot and that he named Darth Talon. Like,
yeah,
there's no backstory similarities that would have been brought into the plot, especially because, like, that movie, if George made his sequel trilogy and if it had been the version that included like Darth Talon as Darth Maul's apprentice, it would have been set around the time of like Dark Nest, I think.
Yeah.
And like it was not going to be, oh, look at these look at this part of the EU timeline that's now in the universe. It was just going to be George saw some things he thought were cool and maybe those would come in, but it'd be the exact same situation as like all the scrambling with anything that had been said about the Clone Wars around the prequels, where George was not going to care about that.
Yeah, for sure. I had another question, but I just clicked away. Have you read the Battle of? A lot of people are in chat are asking the Battle of Kuat. Have you read that one? It's from the Blade Squadron mini short story. It's pretty good.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's like I think it's like a few weeks of them taking Kuat. It's pretty cool.
What's that from?
It's from Star Wars canon. I think it's called Blade Squadron.
Oh. I don't think I've heard of that before.
It came out probably in like 2016. It was, I think it was like online only. Yeah, Star Wars Insider.
Okay.
It came out in. Oh, it was the first story outside of the films and Clone Wars TV series, part of the new canon. Wow. So yeah, 2014.
Damn. 2014 stuff is so funny because like there's some stuff that was coming out that was supposed to be Legends that just got ported forward. Then there's the stuff like the Fantasy Flight game stuff that was like still being published and was mixing some Legends and canon stuff. So it either brought some canon stuff into Legends or vice versa, depending on like whether any of that matters, because like books weren't going to go too far into that the way that they used to when they were referencing West End games. But it was a thing.
Yeah, the source books always are, pretty iffy.
Well, they used to be so much more foundational because there wasn't anything in the 90s to point people towards. They weren't going to send the authors like, oh, go read these Marvel comic strips about how Boba Fett was actually this other guy, and here's the Mandalorians rescuing Leia and talking about how they were supposed to go after her in the Clone Wars. Instead, it was, we have these role-playing books. Here you go, Timothy Zahn and Michael Stackpole. Read these and then bring some of that stuff in if you want to understand the setting.
Yeah.
But they don't need that anymore.
Nope. People are. I mean, the internet helps a lot.
Yeah. Wikipedia is like all they really need, for better or for worse.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about them. The beef is still alive.
So it's a cow?
Yeah.
All right. Well, your question.
Now. Someone said 2014 is 10 years ago. F me. Yep. For sure. Not a good thought. Corey, do you think with enough time Star Wars will have a soft reboot, or will they just continue with the current universe?
I mean, given enough time, there might be another reboot of some kind, but I don't think there's in the near future any real chance that they're going to want to reboot anything.
Give them like 30 years maybe, and
yeah,
anything can happen, but before then, I don't think so.
Like there's still so many areas where there's periods that haven't been explored where they can explore and still tie things into movies that are going on. So, like for them to do a reboot, there'd have to be a specific reason they're doing it, and I don't think that reason exists right now. In the same way that like Marvel isn't going to reboot right now.
Yeah, I'd say a Marvel reboot is far more likely than a
Yeah.
Star Wars reboot. They might do more non-canon stories, but yeah, no reboot for a bit.
Okay.
Marmar said,
So
"Is it true you two hate each other?" Yes.
absolutely. Do you think we'll ever see any more Delta Squad in canon since the Bad Batch is basically the more well-known equivalent? I don't know that they're gonna feel the need to go back to that. Well,
Yeah. I mean, I would. I'm sure we'll have stories where they're mentioned, or at least some of them.
yeah.
Just because there's always so much Clone Wars stuff coming out.
The reaction to Scorch in the Bad Batch might actually push them to want to do a kind of Delta Squad tie-in book, so that might actually be more possible now than it was before everyone complained about him dying.
Yeah, and I mean, even if even if we don't get another like actual book about them, I'm sure they'll be featured again.
Yeah, I don't know that they'll be like super important characters in anything unless they get another book about themselves directly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
As long as it's not Karen Travis.
Yeah.
Would never happen.
No.
We also have any thoughts on why Thrawn will be the last resort for the Shadow Council? Because Gideon is clearly the one pulling the strings, but what can Thrawn do campaign-wise to win the Emperor some territory back? I think everyone just kind of knows that Thrawn is, well, he's one of the most high-ranking people left alive because Sloane is still in the unknown regions and no one knows where she is.
Well,
And
she'd be
they
with
generally know he's good.
she'd be with what's his name?
Well, Hux knows that she's out there. I don't know
Yeah.
if they know that Hux knows that she's out there, or if they know that she's out there, or if Hux
Yeah.
tells them anything really.
Yeah.
But
Besides, she's not around.
yeah, so it's kind of just everyone knows he's really smart. He's high ranking, so he's someone that people will potentially listen to, and
Yeah.
see if you can actually pull anything out of his ass with a giant army of Night Sisters.
He inspires leadership, so
Yeah. Anything on your end you want to get to next?
Which Star Wars vehicle do you think is the most badass vehicle?
Okay. Do you know what the MTV-7 is?
MTV-7.
Everyone go to Wikipedia
Is that
or
the
just
one that's
Google.
in episode 5 briefly?
It is a Kenner toy, but I don't think it's actually in the movie.
Okay.
It's like the bike.
Yeah. Yeah,
It kind of looks like a steamroller.
Yeah.
So everyone just Google MTV-7, and that's clearly the best one. Or the standing coffin. That's funny too. Any of the Kenner toys, really.
You can have that, and I will take the Juggernaut.
You mean the ATPT?
No, I did not mean the ATPT. Don't get me started. I mean the Juggernaut, the turbo tank.
The A4, A5, A6, B5.
Got to be the A6 is the big one, right?
It is the biggest boy.
Yeah, so I want that one. I love how it has a crow's nest.
So, wasn't your complaint about the ATPT partially that it can't turn?
I mean, that was one of many complaints.
And so, you know what else isn't great at turning?
Well, yes, you are right. But it doesn't need to because it's big.
Okay, fine.
And it can go backwards.
Clearly wrong. But
I mean, it can turn.
Well, not as much as there's a reason that its front and back are both the front and back.
But it can still turn. It can turn like any vehicle.
Barely.
I mean, each wheel is like on its own axle, so it could turn.
Barely. I just think you're being unfair to the ATPT like usual.
Well, the ATPT can do a 360 and walk away. Do you know that old meme? It's called the Xbox 360 because you do a 360 and walk away. Of course, a 360 points you in the same direction, so I guess you moonwalk away. Which hey, the Juggernaut can do quite successfully.
Yeah. One of the things we get the most complaints about in Thrawn's Revenge is like, oh, the Juggernauts drive backwards. Like the front is the back. It's like, well, they drive both directions in the mod anyway, so it doesn't matter. But the thing that people think is the front is actually the back on it. Like the primary cockpit is the blunter one that doesn't have the neck. The neck is at the back. Fun fact for everyone.
Yeah. And it doesn't look like that. But if you watch Revenge of the Sith, I'm pretty sure it goes the right way. Like I'm pretty sure it goes forward.
the boxiest part forward. Yeah. Which is probably a bad basis for which to say that is the front, but that's what happened anyway. So deal with it. Bunch of nerds. You want to do 2 more per chat?
Yeah, sure.
Whose turn is it? Mine or yours? Well, which Infinity story is your favorite, and which one would you want to see continued?
I don't think any of them need to be continued. Like they all tell pretty open and shut stories. Like that's kind of the beauty of them, where it's like one small change and then it kind of completes the story. I don't think there's any that I would personally am dying to see continued. I guess maybe the one where Darth Vader turns back to the good side. I guess they technically haven't. Palpatine is still out there from what I remember. So maybe that one, I guess.
I don't know if it counts, but Ronin?
Yeah, I'd say that counts.
We get like Ronin 2. I like that.
Yeah. Just which one did I get? Because there's been like 2 or 3 different versions of that now. There's like the Ronin comic, right? I think it's a comic. Well, there's the book, the actual like the Ronin, and then there's something else. I think it's a comic, and it's not the same story as the book.
There was a comic as well, but there's also like the Visions thing that it introduced to it. But I like the book a lot, so I would.
I don't know if the comic follows the. I'm pretty sure it doesn't follow the book. But I think it might follow the show.
Well, then that just means that I'm even more justified in wanting another Ronin to follow it up, another book.
Yeah. Okay, so how is Pelion still working for Thrawn when there's no contact with the Grand Admiral for a whole decade? Well, I don't think we know for sure there's no contact. There probably wasn't, but I'm guessing that based on what we've seen now in Tales of the Jedi, that they were probably preparing for something like this. Or Tales of the Empire.
And that was the thing. I think we talked about it enough last week with our Tales of the Empire discussion, but like all the complaints about like, oh, well, Pelion didn't know, like this is a retcon of Pelion or of Thrawn treason, where it wasn't, and you need to be able to explain them having a relationship that goes back far enough for Pelion to care about Thrawn coming back or not, instead of them having met 5 minutes before anyway. So it's possible that Thrawn was like sending out some force messages with the Night Sisters, and maybe Morgan contacted Pelion because now we know they knew each other. So it would make sense that there's some contact there as well. My final question, I think we are. Oops, I meant this one. Same person. Do you think with Luke, it's possible Ahsoka was involved helping to build the new academy?
I mean, she was definitely around, so.
Yeah, like she was there when we saw them physically building it, but I don't think she was involved in like teaching much. Maybe like a guest lecture.
Maybe like Mara, kind of like how Mara is. And
Mara and Corrin both deciding they want to just come by for a bit, shit talk Luke, and leave.
Yeah, except it's a little different, I guess, because she's older. But yeah.
I don't think she was like officially involved in any capacity, because she was still a little bit against the whole Jedi.
Yeah,
but we also don't know when or if she's coming back from Peridia.
True. She could be stuck there. Also,
Yeah,
we
'cause
don't really know what Luke's Jedi Order looked like because maybe he kind of solved many of the issues she had.
maybe, especially if she was in a position to do something. But like, if she never comes back from Perineum, then she's
She's in the asshole of the galaxy.
But
Or
yeah,
on,
so like,
on her way to the asshole of the galaxy.
because the scenes in the Mandalorian were obviously right before Ahsoka, and now we know she's way out there. So
Yep.
all right, we get one more from Mr. X chat.
This is an interesting one. Are the Purgles based on the creatures introduced in the Adventures of Lando Calrissian, which are known as the Oswaft? I definitely see some similarities between the Oswaft and the Purgle. But I think like sentient, like if you look at like Dave Filoni's work, you know, Purgle would fit right in a show like Avatar as well.
Yeah,
So I don't think they were necessarily taken directly from the Oswaft, but they're quite similar.
they're a similar line of thought, at least.
Yeah.
Because both do, like, the Oswaft have extra tentacles too, right? They're
Mhm.
kind of, they both have the squid influence on top of their main
Yep.
like whale or manta ray
Yeah, the Oswaft are
inspirations.
more like mantas, from what I remember.
Yeah. So there's that. There's also like Stellaris pulling from both and vice versa.
Mhm.
But I think it's a pretty common trope that it's all pulling from, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Well, next week we are going to be talking about the Living Force.
Mhm.
That's our money back guarantee.
Yep. I'll get her
No one
done.
gave us any money, right? That we need to give back for that.
Artie McFly just donated $1. Thank you.
Right. Well, you know what you're going to have to do if you don't read and Theo.
Yep.
So yeah,
I'll have to get her done.
Gotta get her done. That'll be next Thursday night. We'll be at least on the usual
Yep.
RSS
JJM.
feeds.
RSS feeds. Yeah. JJM is ready to be ingested.
All right. There you go. Thank you for listening, everyone. Thanks for watching. We'll have some questions at the end of next week's episode as well.
Mhm.
Tonight on youtube.com/ECKSTOO, there'll be some I don't even know what we're doing. We're discussing
doing
Charlie getting
trivia
evicted
first.
some more.
Yeah.
But
Drink some
Yeah.
beers. Tell some stories.
Right.
Okay.
Away
Goodbye,
she
everybody.
goes.